work with numbers to help coaches to make decision better. I did my internship with the Barcelona FC. Then I was lucky.
Was this the Messi
time?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was
really
Messi.
peak time of Barca.
Yeah. So you're given a data set of maybe even 1 million players. Then you have to filter.
Wow.
You have to filter
So
down.
this is data from across the world.
Exactly.
And then
we saw now Morocco, they're surprising the world. Yeah, but I wasn't surprised because they picked one of the best analysts from Liverpool to be the head of analysis. So for them, they knew what they were doing, and they have really invested in terms of tech, in terms of data analytics. Analysis is about building a story. We can't ignore data. It's 2025.
Very last question. Future of sports. We know data-driven, analysis, performance, use of, VAR has already come. It's already happening. Fun engagement in social media. More interactive. Community building. What else do you see? One thing I saw recently was, people launching tokens and crypto coins for their fans and the likes. Maybe what do you see in terms of future, maybe next 5-10 years, in terms of opportunities and trends?
In terms of locally here or globally? Because locally, for sure, we are like 50 years back. So because
we have to catch up.
So we have to catch up faster. And the catching, we need to catch up.
Hi there, welcome to the Startup Evangelist, Ideas for Africa. I'm your host, Daniel Kitwa, and today I'm joined with Nick Kimanthi. He's the founder of Nesta Performance, a SportsTech-enabled startup. So we'll be hearing more about the world of sports entrepreneurship. Karibu sana, Nick.
Thank you, Kitwa.
Yeah, I think your story is very interesting. So maybe just a brief about yourself. So far, what I know about you is you started life as your professional life rather as an accountant, and then you pivoted into the sports world, and you went all through and worked with very established brands, Barcelona, Espanyol, QPR in Europe, and now you're back. So maybe just a brief about how it all began, and in terms of your career and your life. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Nick Kimanthi. I'm a PhD candidate, currently studying or researching on recruitment analysis with the partnership with the English Premier League. Just trying to look at how data is helping clubs recruit and if there's value in that, and trying to see if there's progress in that. But other than that, I started off with finance, as you mentioned. Down the line, I figured out this wasn't really my thing. Then gradually, I transitioned into grassroots football in Kenya.
More like talent development at the younger levels.
Funny enough, I started off because I was working at Scott Christian University as a finance assistant, but at the same time, I was their coach. The university as a coach.
So your main job was finance, but you're like in the sports team as a coach, more like a volunteer type of
Exactly.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, but I would still feel like this is where I need to be because I went through MESA system. I wasn't so lucky. I didn't get an opportunity. There was no clear pathway into if you are good in something into turning pro or something like that. Limited opportunities and all that. So that's now what led me into pursuing my MBA in sports management in Barcelona, EU Business School. that's not what really opened up the opportunities, me to see there's something else different there in terms of sports, because my mind was limited into seeing sport to the extent of you can only be a coach, you can be a referee, or maybe administrator. That's the most that I knew.
And that's what most people here in Kenya, Africa see, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, even up to date, people don't really understand what I do. People still think that I'm a coach, but I don't know much anything to do with coaching. I work with numbers to help coaches to make decision better. Yeah, so then, I moved to Barcelona. It was a game changer for me. It was insightful. Moving to a different country, different culture, different environment. So my MBA, I did my internship with the Barcelona FC. Then I was lucky
was
enough.
This the Messi
time?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was
so
really
Messi. Peak time of Barca.
Yeah. Then now I moved to work with the RCD Espanyol as a commercial analyst, whereby I was more of on the commercial side of the sport, not yet on the performance side of the sport.
So commercial is like sourcing, looking at potential players to acquire for the club, right?
More of trying to see how is a club going to be profitable.
Okay, revenue. So it's more of a business.
Yeah, the business side of the sport, trying to understand how is a club going to remain profitable through sponsorship, through TV rights, or through investing in young players, develop them, then sell. Let me use the word sell them at a profitable margin at some point. Yeah, and also that's when now there was the thing of clubs, Europe clubs franchising in Africa or other regions in the world.
So like global expansion.
Expansion. Yeah. So whereby I'm sure you've seen this Barcelona Academy somewhere in Zambia, or there's an Espanyol Academy somewhere in North Africa. So the idea was to look for local investors. They get a license. They use those clubs' methodologies in trying to recruit or in trying to train the academies. This is just a way of the clubs trying to generate an extra income. Yeah. So my story looks like long, but let me cut it short. Yeah. So that's when I discovered there's another interesting part.
So at Espanyol now.
Yeah, at Espanyol. Doing my research, that's when I discovered there's another interesting part now, performance analysis, which now I don't really have to be a coach to be involved in the running
day of a football team or
exactly business, because I was still missing the adrenaline of being on the pitch or being involved on what is happening on the pitch and all that. So then when I discovered this, there's now performance analysis. That's when now everything now switched. Now I started doing online courses on scouting, on performance analysis. Yeah, so that's why I ended up moving to the UK to do my MSc in sports performance analysis. Worked with QPR as a recruitment analyst because for me that was now the game changer.
Was it at that time QPR was in the EPL or
no?
It was in the championship.
It was in the championship, but still for me it was a game changer because now what my role entailed looking into players that can fit into QPR
system. Yeah.
So when it comes to a defender, there are some matrices that we are looking at. So you look at different leagues based on because there's a limit. There's players that potentially, even if they are good, they can't play in England. So you have to look at those limitations. So you're given a data set of maybe even 1 million players. Then you have to filter. You have to filter down.
This is data from across the world.
Exactly.
And then you have to figure out which players is a buy or which ones should you pursue more deeply into the QPR system.
Exactly. Yeah, because there are key matrices that we are looking at when it comes to maybe a defensive midfielders. If it's aerial duels, we want someone who is a aerial duels at a particular percentage, or if it's tackles are at a particular percentage. So we use now that to filter down to specific players. So if it's age, we can filter also they're using age. So there are different things that we use to filter. Then now you come up with a short list of maybe 5 players that you think ideally they are good. Then you compile the videos. Now you send that to the head of scouting. Now the traditional scouting. Now they have to maybe make a decision of do we go watch them play? Because now there are some other elements of scouting that data can't get, like the element of the human relationship, because I think that's something that people really ignore. But how do you interact with other players? That
so
element,
like maybe being close to the dressing room or being close to their training regiment and seeing how they do their day-to-day.
Yeah, because those are also some things that really matter in terms of how do you even relate, because it's a team sport at the end of the day. So you might be the most talented person, but if you can't relate with other players, then it's a no. So that was my time in QPR. Then I moved to rugby.
So that's Saracens. You went to like the rugby sport.
So I know I moved for a different sport. Rugby. I had no idea.
But still doing data.
Yes, really the same thing. Same thing. The same thing in the Saracens, recruitment analysis and performance analysis. So basically entailed now working with both the women and male rugby
players.
So for me it was different world. But I didn't have much knowledge of rugby because I just had a basic knowledge of our sevens here, a basic of try, conversion, or line out.
The rules of the game,
the basic rule as a fan. But going into Saracens, it was totally different because it's different from how analysis in football is done and how analysis in rugby is done. Because for rugby, they are more detailed into their set plays. They are more detailed on time, recovery. They are more
because the pitch is big. The players are, if it's sevens, the players are few, so the margin of error can be very wide.
But I was working with the 15th, so I've never worked really on a high level for sevens. So the 15th, which is really technical. So for them, I feel like the analysis bit when it comes to set play plays a big role into who is going to win the game or who is going to lose the game. Because for them, a scrum, they have to analyze a scrum really well. Because for us, we were looking scrum from the point of how are we approaching? How is the opponent approaching? Who is the first person to go down? Then every time we'd have to go into a match with an option of where do we need to push the opponent. And an interesting thing that we were doing at Saracens is opposition, not really an opposition analysis. Opposition is a basic thing to do in analysis, but we were doing official analysis, whereby we analyze the officials. Look, using data, we know how they officiate.
So you're almost like preempting the officials in terms of their decision process to know
exactly.
If we run this play, the decision is likely to favor us or not favor us, and then you adjust based on that sort of level of data.
Exactly, or even push the opponent into committing some offense that probably will trigger the official.
You're baiting the opponent.
Exactly. So going into that detail is like, for me, it was like, wow, this is on another level. Because see, when the difference between now that with football is more of an transition. Flock of training, because it's either transition, it's an either off-ball movement or positional play. But now, when it comes to rugby, I can say it's you have to really be there present, know what you are doing, know when the opponent does it, what do I adjust immediately? So I think that was my time with rugby. 2022, I was lucky enough to be one of Qatar tournament analyst for FIFA, basically trying to generate data for the Qatar World Cup and supplying
So
that
that
to
was before the World Cup or during the
World Cup.
the actual the actual tournament.
The actual tournament, because FIFA introduced what they call a FIFA football language. So FIFA football language is supposed to help balance the game in a way. So the idea is for them to feel like their fans get a feel of what happens. So there was a lot of data being shared, content being shared, and also helping the coaches make the decision fast. Because for them, they are trained to balance the game in a way that, let's say, Nigeria, they don't have a performance analyst. They are playing against England. England, they have 15 performance analysts. So they are trying to maybe balance the game such that Nigeria
make it more competitive.
Make it more competitive. Nigeria might not have the capacity to have 15 performance analysts, but FIFA is providing that data,
resource,
that resource, that data is available. So you make use of it, get the insights and all that.
And I guess at that time, I remember there were a couple of upsets, right? There was also it became very interesting to see, a small team beating a big team, or even if they lose, the game was much more entertaining. And
that's where we saw now Morocco, they're surprising the world. But I wasn't surprised because they picked one of the best analysts from Liverpool to be the head of analysis. So for them, they knew what they were doing, and they have really invested in terms of tech, in terms of data analytics. And I have a couple of analysts that I know, they work for the Morocco national team from the UK. So I wasn't surprised to see Morocco going to that level.
And then I remember we were talking before. I looked at Leicester. In the title-winning season, they had the least amount of injuries. So, for example, what would you say would be the role of data, even in anticipating things like player health, injuries, in terms of maximizing the value of players? Because for us, we probably look at data as fans, maybe from their goal ratio, their speed. When you play FIFA, those are the things the metrics that you see. But from your end, you are looking at much more in terms of the player as a person.
So when we're doing pre-season and everything, we always have, of course, there's always the preferred first 11, which potentially gives you the maximum points. So when you get an injury, that means that you have to introduce another player that is already not used to the system. So our data helps us in terms of trying to manage injuries and all that. We helps us manage what we call load management, the internal and the external. The external is what now we see. This player has done this player has run this speed and all that. Now that is now the external, but the internal is what does the heart rate tell us? What does the recovery rate,
muscle straight,
and all that. So you have to balance all that data. And the biggest issue that I've had, even here in country, is people just want to get one-time data. They just want to say who was the fastest, who covered the most kilometers. But that is not the thing. That is not why we do analysis. Analysis is about building a story. You pick this, then build up and see, is it making sense or not? So for me, I would say, if you're doing analysis and how it affects the injury recovery, you just have to do both training in game. Then it gives you the insights that you want here.
And then since you brought the example of Morocco, in terms of them hiring a performance analyst, and that had an impact in terms of their performance, it's clear that, for example, East African countries don't fare as well as maybe West Africa and North Africa. Is it because maybe what would you say is the sports outside the sporting culture? What would you say is now the business side of sports that helps those countries perform better? Is it more on the academies they have? Is it more? Are they embracing technology more? Is it the quality of coaches being trained, or what would be the what would you say are some of the ways they are a little bit better than us, for example?
There are several things from my personal point of view. One, it's a FIFA ranking. Because see, for a country, if your FIFA ranking is below, is like hundreds, no one sees it as a serious country. Because I'll give you an example. Playing in England, the Premier League. For you to play in England, probably your country has to be ranked at specific number for you to go directly into playing into England. I'll give you an example like our Victor Wanyama. Victor Wanyama had to go through Belgium, Celtic, then now
he came to Tottenham.
Then he came to Southampton. Then Southampton to Tottenham. So you see, he had to go through all that journey just to end up in Tottenham.
So for example, I would say in that case, if it's FIFA rankings, it means the risk of an East African player is they can waste a lot of their prime in a low level club or a lower league, with lower pay and lower exposure, as opposed if say they were in a higher ranking country and their visibility would be quite instant, or at least early on in their career.
Yeah, because they use what we call I think GE points. There's some points that we use to calculate based on you need to have played at least 30% of that year in your national team, and the national team needs to be at specific ranking for you to play in England. Then the rating of the league that you are playing. So the good thing about Victor, Celtic is ranked higher, like in terms of the league, then he was a regular at the national team level. Yeah, so the points were
compensated for the country being
exactly
lower. And I guess also if your country is not competing in so many tournaments, let's say you are eliminated from from AFCON qualification, that affects your visibility at national level.
Exactly. So I think also the fact that so the West Africans, they are more structured. They have more proven academies. They have seen success rates. Yeah,
and the business model is working also.
The business model is working. I wouldn't say that they use more tech. No, they don't use tech. For them, it's just raw talent, culture in terms of. Even in other industries, you've seen now West Africans are really aggressive in terms of
music,
and all that. So it's for them, it's cultural. Like there's that culture bit of them being really aggressive and pushing.
Yeah. And then, so when you after QPR, is it the time when you came back to Kenya or
no? I moved to Saracens.
The rugby, and then so after the rugby, you came back.
Yeah, now after rugby, I've been here until I've been working the rugby remotely for a while, but now I'm now focusing on Nesta now. Yeah,
and then maybe let's talk about on the performance side. The last few years, AI has really taken up. How are you seeing now sort of artificial intelligence supporting analysts like yourselves and performance coaches and other people in that ecosystem to make the better decisions or drive value for the teams? Yeah,
good question, because now what we are building at Nesta Performance is we are building with the help on AI. We are building a model that helps us go through historic data. Then we analyze it and look at the trends and look what are clubs looking for. Yeah. So with AI, it will help us do that so fast that I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to filter down. But we're building an AI model that helps us understand what are the trends, what are the clubs looking for. That way, we are able to recruit, train, and develop players based on club needs. That's basically using AI. Yeah.
So, for example, if you're building an AI engine, does it mean if you're let's say for the sake of now Nesta as your company, if you're building an academy and say in the next 2 years, Barcelona, Man United, Arsenal, whoever, will be looking for this type of midfielder. Does it mean, what is the process of getting data from those clubs? Is it, a subscription by all the analysts telling you what they are looking for? Or is it observation of, data around their match performances and their gaps? How would you sort of, harvest that data from the market? Yeah.
So there are different ways, but there are two major players when it comes to data, players' data and all that. So one of them is Wisecout, the Hoodle. It's an American company. The other one is Opta. It's a UK company. So those are I think the biggest data providers when it comes to, even when I'm recruiting a player, I have to subscribe into their platform, so that I'm able to filter. It's the same process that we use if you're recruiting players, because you have to have a third party giving you that commercial data. Then you're able to filter down based on what you're looking for. So that data is what we are going to use to build model that helps us understand when Barcelona are recruiting, what kind of midfielder do they look at?
Are they looking for?
Then our program is the 2-year program whereby we scout and recruit under 20s. Then these 2 years is for us to collect data and develop them more. Then in the process of these 2 years, we are able to see based on how they play. Because for us, we don't want to just place players based on opportunities. We want to place players based on where they fit. So these 2 years is for us to match using our model, because now our model will have a rating of this. You match this league 80%, you match this league 60%. Or potentially, if you start from this league, because this league plays like this other league, then there's a chance of you ending up in where you deserve or where probably you fit. Yeah, so for us, I would say all that is just because of AI, just trying to combine all those elements and making work easier. Yeah.
The other challenge we have, I think, at semi-professional and professional level, there's data, from the companies you've mentioned, and you plug into them. But at grassroots level, it's in Africa at least, it's a bit difficult. Compared, say, to Spain or England or even Latin America, you'd find like players like Messi were being observed from 9 years, 10 years old. Mbappe, I remember, he was already being tracked or traced between as early as 11 years. So how do you reconcile the flying blind that we have now at the grassroots level?
It's a hard one, but no, our approach is it's unique. One, we're leveraging on CAF. CAF, they have their CAF
Confederation of African Football.
They have the CAF for schools. That's an avenue for us to see players. We also have the AFCON under 17 and potentially the AFCON under 20s. So that's one way. The other way is through partnership with academies from different countries, whereby you just get into a partnership of future sale revenue, share revenue. We sign a player from the academy, then we have that share revenue, because we also want to empower those academies and make sure that they also feel like the need of developing more and more. Because for us, we can't function without those academies. So we are saying we are investing in these players, giving them an elite environment at the comfort of Africa without more pressure, because currently the structure that is players move from Africa to Europe. There's a bit of a culture shock. There's a bit of it's a new environment. It's a new weather that comes with it. Then for us, we are saying that no, we want to pick these players, develop them without having to push them, without having to feel they're under pressure. introduce a bit of culture in the program, introduce a bit of learning language. So these 2 years is for them to prepare them such that by the time they graduate after the 2 years, they are fully ready to transition into elite. Because even though as professionals, you move to a different country, it takes you time to adjust. So you can imagine a player who is under pressure and it's ruthless out there because a club signs you, they expect to see something in you. They don't have all the time to be patient.
My other question would be, in sometimes we've been accused as startups or entrepreneurs and businesses that we develop very good products and export. Are you seeing an opportunity for professional level talent to be developed now for the African leagues, for example? I know that markets like South Africa have a much better local league, probably Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, like the North Africans. But outside that, I don't see a lot. Like for example, in Kenya, playing professionally has limitations on income because of various things, sponsorship, match day revenue. What would you say would take to also have opportunities for players, not for Barcelona, but maybe for Al Ahly or for Sundowns or whoever out there in Africa, but in a much better environment?
Good point. We had that discussion with Rahul. It's a development director at CAF because he understands what we are trying to build here, because we are talking about the partnership and all that. Then he would love for us to even consider developing players for the Halal, Zamalek, and all that. So it's something that we are also, we're not saying that we are developing players fully for the
Europe.
A pathway to Egypt, to Europe is still a pathway. So for us, we are developing players and giving them a clear pathway into elite football. And for us, if you don't make it to elite football, because not everyone will make it to elite football, we have other exit points of partnership with the universities in the US and those other developed market whereby we give
scholarships.
Scholarships. For us, is the pathway is very clear. Of course, the first priority is for you to play elite football. If you don't make it, then we have an option of for you enrolling into the scholarships routes, or maybe you pursuing other areas, because for us, we also want to expand to other regions. Kenya is just a starting point. We're looking into having another center in South Africa, another center in the West. So for us this is just a starting point, then expanding.
And then maybe looking forward, what would you say would be areas people can partner with Nesta Performance? I know you're fundraising. What other areas do you see you're looking at in terms of partnerships, in terms of opportunities to grow the business and grow the ecosystem?
For us, we are open to even strategic partnership. Sometimes it doesn't have to be financial. Strategic partnership, advisory partnership, because we are a startup, and we, as much as I'll be taking care, I'll be looking into developing the product. There are some other areas that probably needs help that we don't have expertise in, like in terms of branding, in terms of even marketing, in terms of communication, in terms of relations, because for us, we just want to change how people see the sport. We want to create opportunities. We want to make impact, and we can't make impact while just focusing on the product alone. We have to build a product that is sellable even out there. So currently, you mentioned, we are fundraising. So we are in touch with some early investors, the angel investors, because we just want to build the foundation. And
interesting. So people can look out for you in terms of other areas other than funding. Maybe one last point as we wrap up. The policy environment is very important. What do you see that needs to change? Because I think for me, one would be, I think our academic system does not offer a lot of opportunities on sports in terms of training or even degrees. And I look at you, you're sort of a very unique case, MBA, MSc in very elite schools in Europe in sports and performance and data. But what would you see are some of the things we can do better to also bring up more professionals in the sports and creative ecosystem?
I think we need to probably invest in more trying to the practical sort of education, if I can call it that way. One of the things that I do part time is help the national team, Harambee Stars, as a performance analyst. I can't say I'm really proud of the process or the things that we do currently, but with the new administration, I can say some of the things that we are discussing about is how can I share knowledge? How can we introduce some even short courses? Because at the end of the day, you might have the best performance analyst, but if you don't have coaches
that can interpret and make decisions on that data,
then it's still useless. Because for me, I'll give you really good data, I'll give you really good insights, but it's up to the coach to make decision based on that.
So even coaches, I guess the coaching trainings and coaching courses need to have data-driven decision-making modules or courses to guide coaches, now that you don't need to make some decisions off the cuff or maybe on gut, but also you can look at data points that you're being given by your colleagues.
Exactly. So that's something that we are exploring in terms of trying to see that we have more analysts trained, we have more coaches with the basic knowledge on analysis and what to expect if you have an analyst. So basically I can say, even without even looking into the academic world first, even at the federation level, even
at federations and at team level.
At a team level, we need that capacity building, people to understand and people to just work with the resources that are available. Because people always think that analysis needs to be really expensive, but it's not really about there is... if you want to take it to the next level, there is also those software that you have to subscribe to. But the basic understanding of how can I make use of this data that I'm getting to make an informed decision. Because that is all about, because even in world of fan engagement, everything has changed. It's data driven.
Interesting. I remember you told me that I think in rugby in Kenya, at least they embrace more data. At least that's what I've observed. Than football, and we can see a bit of more results. Our rugby teams, perform much higher in terms of internationally than say football, for example.
But even though there are some you can argue in terms of the competition level is different, but but for them, at least in rugby, they really embrace data. We've seen the women sevens. They have been really focusing on data the same way to men, and you can it's clearly that it's different in terms of performance and all that. So let's hope that at least with football in the near future, we'll see some changes. We'll see some progress. And we can't ignore data. It's 2025.
Very last question. Future of sports. We know data-driven, analysis, performance, use of, VAR has already come. It's already happening. fun engagement in social media, more interactive, community building. What else do you see? One thing I saw recently was, people launching tokens and, crypto, coins for, their fans and the likes. Maybe what do you see in terms of future, maybe next 5-10 years in terms of opportunities and trends?
In terms of our locally here or globally, because locally for sure we are like 50 years back. So because
we have to catch up.
So we have to catch up faster, and the catching we need to catch up so fast because for us we have to accept the fact that data, we can't ignore data.
It's a new oil.
The new oil. Then by the time we catch up on data, then AI is here. And it's not like AI is here already. We even past AI now. Then other avenues. So we have to really catch up so fast. We have to embrace data analysis. We have to make use of data in development, into policies, education, everything, rather than waiting, because you wait, then you're past. Then you need to catch up so fast.
Leaves you.
Because see, now with a lot of data, big data, now that you bring the aspect of now the AI, because now the AI makes you do analysis in seconds.
You do more with less time.
You do more with less time. So for me, I would say we are behind, because I can tell you for sure at Saracens we were 15 analysts for one team.
Wow!
And
you here are one analyst for the national team.
One analyst for the national team, and still you have to convince them why do you
invest in that resource,
and to invest in that resource, and why do you need this person, and this person does what. So there's a lot of even capacity building to the key decision makers. You have to explain to them what you do, and why you need to be there at the team level.
So I guess you're saying for Africa is, we need to catch up. 50 years is mind-boggling. And then you're saying, even in terms of human resource in our clubs, I think we only talk about coaches and the players, but there are other now roles and JDs that need to be developed, like performance analysts, data analysts, to support decision makers.
Exactly. And we just need to look the sport beyond just playing and winning.
It is a very big business. Thanks, Nick, for sharing your insights.
Thank you so much.
We'll share your details about your business, your venture. I think there's a lot of untapped opportunity. I think I was reading, I think some NBA clubs have been 10xing, VC investments. So there's a lot of opportunities for angels, for VCs, for impact investors to not only develop viable talent, but also, create jobs, create livelihoods for young people and for our ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I really agree. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you.